All right, hello everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Athletic Scout podcast. We are on the verge of the Scouts kicking off the 2026 season, so I thought it'd be a good time to have on a captain, 3-year player, and college player somewhere. We'll talk about that a little bit at the pod. His name is Jack Berger. Jack, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. Hey, thanks for popping on here. Hey, when we get we're recording this on a Tuesday. You guys had this is game week. You guys got a night practice, I think, coming up tonight. Maybe one later in the week. Talk about just overall I know Coach talked about this at the meetings. Like, hey, no more time for I don't know things. I don't know what's going on. Now it's kind of time to get serious. And does that appear to be the tone of the guys as you head into Deerfield on Friday night?
Yeah, definitely. I think this has come a lot faster around, especially with the first game being before school starts. So the players have been preaching as well as the coaches. You said if you don't know what you're doing, you better ask or just get out because we don't have time to burn reps anymore. It's go time. Season's starting and we got to win this game this week.
Yeah, playing Deerfield, a team you guys handled a year ago. I assume, I know from an offensive perspective, I know the coaches expect them to kind of play the same scheme that they did a year ago.
Yeah.
With triple option. Just give us maybe a little, without giving away too much, maybe some things some insights on what you see a little bit from their defense and maybe some ways you guys can attack them a little bit.
Yeah, we're kind of basing their defense off what we saw last year. So their defense is kind of made to stop perimeter run. They play they play kind of a 3 hands down, 5 linebacker / nickel defense. So they'll run a lot of cover 2 as well as some combo coverages with cover 2 and 0. And then they'll also play a man cover 0 coverage where the corners are soft and up. So we're thinking about just doing the simple stuff that we have, not showing too much in our playbook so the guys can get out fast and take the lead early that game.
Yeah, I think your offensive coaches in the meeting on Monday said, hey, it's really less. Obviously, you have to do some planning for the team you're playing, but week 1 is typically about your execution, right? And making sure you guys are doing the right things.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, so let's get a little football 101 from Jack, who is now in his 3rd varsity season. And Jack is, I assume, right, Jack? I think this is probably a pretty fair assumption. You'll be the starting Z receiver on Friday night. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'll be at Z. That's correct.
So explain that to the audience. What is a Z receiver?
So a Z receiver is a guy who's usually split out double wide, which means he's the widest receiver. The Z is he's kind of the guy who's mainly in the concept. So the Z will always be kind of targeted by the quarterback or in what we call the quarterback's reads. So be one of his options. And the Z is usually a guy who has deeper routes or is what we tag our playbook to.
And the way that the Scouts play their offense, again, there are different formational packages, right? So you're talking about your base offense, right? Which Jack would be the Z. You have an X, you have an H, you have an F. Of course, in the Scouts offense, the H is the fullback, and then the F is the adjustment back, right?
In
your offense there. So talk about that sort of scheme of offense in general and why you like playing it and what are some advantages to playing this sort of scheme of offense?
Yeah. So our H is a guy who's not always, but he's mainly going to be set in the backfield. He's our traditional running back. And then our F I like the F and I like it in our offense because it's a really, it has a special duality to it. An F is a guy in one of our package. We could stick a big guy or a more physical guy there who's, who we might want blocking on run plays or running short routes and getting the ball quick. And then we can also use F to put a receiver there, run quick motions with them, run that surprise, longer route out of an F guy that you might not normally see out of a bigger guy.
Yeah, I think it's an offense that really you guys have a lot of success in the past when you guys can obviously run the football and you guys can run inside outside zone and then kind of run quick game off of that and kind of pick your spots, right? When you're kind of headed deep. And I think this year's group is something that has some more versatility. You've got
Yeah,
a good group of seniors, yourself included, coming back, but some juniors who might be unproven at the varsity level. But
sure.
if you guys are going to get to where you want to go, are going to have to make some contributions. So give us some names of some guys that maybe returning guys and maybe some
Mhm.
juniors that you expect to have some good seasons for you.
Yeah, my other wideout for this weekend at least will probably be Jack Dacey, or will be Jack Dacey. He's a guy who saw some playing time last year, kind of was taking in what varsity's like, and he's worked his ass off. Excuse my language. This summer, but he's been in the playbook. He's always asking questions, try to get better. So I think he's gonna have a really good year and be good to us. So Jack Dacey will be there, as well as Emmett Heaton. You might see him playing a little defense this week, but he's another guy, another wideout we can use to play that X position. And then a few juniors that will help us out. Colton Steinbach, he's a bigger kid from Lake Bluff. He'll be playing. He's a junior. He'll be playing tight end this year. He's kind of, or what I see as our receiving tight end. And then guys like Will Vahey, Connor Dressel, they've kind of been filling in, as well as a sophomore we pulled up, Jack Ruzilla. Those three have kind of been filling in at that F position and playing that slot receiver in that Jag group.
Yeah, those are always kind of fun athletes to watch develop. The
Yeah.
ones that we necessarily remember maybe seeing them at the JV level who are making plays. It's obviously going to be a step up coming in. But I think
Yeah.
again, having those senior guys, you mentioned Jack Dacey, a guy who
Yeah.
was a bit injury prone, I think, or at least certainly had some injuries
Yeah. A few last year.
as a junior. Yeah, and to kind of see him as somebody that you knew, hey, as a senior, he could be really good. And
Yeah.
I mean, Jack, you remember when you were a sophomore with that great team 2 years ago when you had
Yeah.
Big Hartline, you had Charlie Marquis, you had Pasquazi. So, how
Yeah.
important is it for now you being the guy, you being maybe that Charlie Marquis type guy that guys are going to be keen on to have other players develop to kind of, hey, take some pressure off you?
Yeah. It's really important. I remember when Charlie got double teamed versus Zion that year, and it was really important for. I didn't have the best game, but Bink and Pasquazi really stepped up, and they showed they can take that kind of burden off Charlie, and I think it's going to be important this year that those guys step up and they get the ball when I can.
Yeah, I think the schedule early on, I think, is interesting because you play a Deerfield team. I think is fun for fans because it's a short road trip for them, short road trip for
Yeah,
you guys last year. You might know some of those guys. You might play them in,
yeah, I got a
travel
few
bait.
baseball guys over there.
Yeah, who you might have grown up playing with, certainly at Deerfield. I think it's great for the game when you have these kind of regional, right? Because high school football
Yeah,
to me is a regional game, and I think it's good to
hmm
have those rivals. Then you play Carmel, a team
yeah,
in week two that you guys have played now. This will be the sixth year. I remember, the first year in 2021 with Leo Scheidler with that great, um, semifinal team. And then
yeah,
2 years ago, you guys go to their place and beat them up.
yeah,
And last year they came to your place and kind of got you pretty good.
yeah,
Is that also, how do you guys feel about the non-conference? I know you love the conference games, but how do you guys feel,
yeah.
feel about the non-conference schedule?
I think we feel pretty good about it. I know Carmel's a good team, um, but I think they're definitely beatable, and the guys definitely aren't shying away from the challenge. And I think these non-conference games are good because these are kind of non-traditional teams that we don't see too much in our conference, especially for example like Deerfield's defense, probably the only kind we'll see besides Zurich. So it's fun playing these games, and we like it because you really get to figure out our identity and kind of player wise who's going to play where and who are the guys that are going to play in those conference games.
Yeah, and you guys start against Zion, I think
Yep.
in week three. I'm just kind of pulling up the schedule here real quick in terms of where you guys are after that. I think it's going to be
Yep.
Zion. That'll be actually at
Sure.
their place. And then you got
Yep.
Libertyville, then you got Warren, and then you got Waukegan, and then you got Zurich. So you play kind of those rivalry games all in the span of a month. So
Yeah.
who knows how you guys are, how the lineup is going to be with some of these juniors. We'll certainly know
hmm
by the middle point of the season. Do you have a particular favorite, Jack? In turn, I mean, I'm thinking about the Carmel game, so I know you know their quarterback, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Reed Dangle, right? Who's a transfer.
He's one of my good buddies. We played baseball for a few years together in the summer, and we played 7-on-7 together actually in the off season. So he was at Warren for 3 years, and then he's taking his senior year at Carmel this year, so it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it seems like the whole transfer portal thing is something that we hear about in high school
Yeah,
more even as much as we did maybe with college. And of course, the opportunity for him to play was because Trey Taylor, pretty
yeah,
well known quarterback who's going to Nebraska, moved to Nebraska. So the Reed kid comes in
yeah.
and is going to be playing for Carmel. I was going to ask you, do you have one particular favorite of those rivals? I always call it the Big Four: Stevenson, Moore, Lake Zurich, Libertyville. As well as a particular favorite for you.
Definitely Libertyville. Libertyville is definitely my favorite game. That is definitely around our place at Lake Forest. That is definitely the most focused week and intense week, and you can tell the guys are just like ready to go. But I think Libertyville is definitely my favorite rival. Kind of ever since my sophomore year when we beat him in the playoffs. There was some jawing in the games. I got on
Mm-hmm.
unsportsmanlike conduct actually the playoffs, but I think Libertyville is definitely my favorite.
Yeah, I think whatever that unsportsmanlike conduct you guys were able to overcome it, I'm sure it was
Yeah.
worth it. I'm sure it was worth it.
Yeah, no, for me it was definitely worth it, but Coach Bagnoli disagreed, but we won the game, so
Well, I was standing there on the sideline when you made that catch, when you got you guys out of the deep end zone
yeah.
and got you guys in position to score. So he may have forgotten about that sportsmanlike conduct
Yeah.
after you made that incredible catch on the
I
sideline.
wasn't thinking about it then.
Yeah, those were two wild games.
Yeah,
We're talking to Jack Berger here. Jack is a senior wide receiver for the Scouts, and also a captain. I want to ask him certainly about the captaincy, and we're going to talk about
sure.
some leadership things. But I want to ask you about now switching a little bit from this year's group and talk about recruiting a bit.
Okay.
And so people remember, Jack unfortunately missed much of his junior year due to injury.
Yeah.
I know you have some dates lined up here in the fall. It's going to be kind of busy for you, right? Like visit some games on Friday. You're probably hopping in the car, hop on a plane, going
Yeah.
to visit a campus on. Talk. Can you give us a status report on that and kind of what are some schools and some visits you got lined up?
Yeah. I'm still kind of in this D3 academic mindset. So a lot of these schools, it's good football, great academics. So for example, Denison is a school. I'm actually going over there. Believe it's their first game in September versus Hope. So I'll be able to see Charlie Marquis, who's a Hope guy, and Aiden Cassidy, a Denison guy. I'm going down there with Chuck Hornberger, so that'll be fun. And then I might try and get out to Wooster College, which is also in Ohio. It's another academic school, good football. So that'll probably be later in the month. But that's kind of where my recruiting's at. And there's a lot of schools that are kind of just like we gotta wait till or we got your eyes on you, but we have to see how you do this season. Because I don't really have too much film from last year, but so I'm just focused on having a good season and letting things take care of itself.
Yeah, I think that's the right attitude, and I would think that maybe if that senior tape continues to look good, everybody knows you're a really good student.
Hmm.
The ability to sort of maybe elevate that recruiting. Those are all great schools you mentioned. Certainly
Yeah,
Denison, Wittenberg. I mean Denison especially. Certainly that's been a pipeline for the Scouts.
sure.
Cade Nowick, certainly the most notable guy recently.
Yeah,
There won a baseball state championship this year with Denison.
yeah,
Um, but but for you having good grades is certainly gives you options. And
for
so
sure.
so for you in terms of what he ideally, whether it be week 3, week 4, week 5, is that potential when you have some film where hey you might be hearing from some schools that
Yeah,
might be either 1AA, maybe some P4 schools, some
sure.
kind of FCS schools potentially.
Yeah, I'll definitely. I've been in contact with a few before, a few Ivies. Some Pioneer League, which has been big. Schools like Dayton, St. Thomas, and then like UPenn. So I'll definitely send my film out to them. Give them a look, and then we'll see if they respond or what they think.
Well, I think they'll think pretty good things about you if you're out there catching passes and you're winning games,
Hopefully,
right? So
yeah,
that's what I think is going to matter. I know it's got to be probably the most challenging thing for you is probably just the patience part of it and the
yeah,
waiting part, but also knowing that hey, I have my whole season in front of me here, and now I can finally put some things on film.
yeah, yeah. It's tough, especially last year. It was hard, but going through that recruiting process, not getting all I wanted. Still very grateful, but yeah, this year I'm definitely really excited to show the schools who are looking at me what I can do.
I'm going to switch now here, and we've got a little bit time left here with Jack, who's appreciating him hopping on here. They've got a night practice tonight. The Scouts do, again, taking on Deerfield on Friday. Jack is one of 3 captains this year, selected throughout the very arduous process that the Scouts go through, meaning the team kind of votes, the coaches vote. They have a process where administrators, where they have to give a presentation to administrators. Jack was selected himself, Chuck Hornberger and Rowdy Greenlease. Rowdy is an offensive lineman. Looked like he's going to play a little left tackle for you guys, but may move him around.
Yeah.
And obviously, Chuck will be on that defensive line along with Michael Heeman and George Holland. I asked you this question when you were in Parkside, but I'll ask you it again, Jack, now that you're the captain. Leadership, what does it mean to you, and how do you define it?
Yeah. So leadership to me, I would define it as, actions you take to point people in the right direction or to help better themselves. So to me, like especially when I'm at football, my biggest thing is leading by example. Just doing things how I hope other people would do them or how I hope they would do them by our culture standards. I like being vocal, just telling guys when they make a mistake, what they're doing wrong. And I think preaching to the seniors that the younger guys are looking up to us, which is what I did when I was younger, and that we need to set the right example for them to follow so that the program's in good hands.
And there's some things you've already done in regards to that in terms of putting that to practice. I noticed the practice. I was there on Monday, August the 17th, and maybe some guys were kind of, again, it's going to happen with some of the younger guys that were struggling, I think, with the snap and getting out of the huddle a little bit, pre-snap. And again, lots going on. Again, if you're at Scouts practices, the coaches are hard on the guys, right? They're very firm. It's a very efficient practice in terms of the organization. The coaching staff been together for a very, very long time. Things are probably a little more intense because it's kind of a game week. Are those moments too where you can kind of insert yourself and say, come on, guys, it's not that hard. Let's get out of the friggin' huddle and let's call the play, right?
I believe it was yesterday. I think I started losing my mind a little bit about people breaking the huddle, and our offensive coordinator, Coach Johnson, kind of just told us, before I lose my mind and a few other guys, we got to break the huddle. So, it's the little things like that where I feel like players kind of are not annoyed by the coaches, but could be if a coach was yelling at them. And I think that's when the coaches expect us senior guys and captains to clean up those little things for our teammates and just stay on track.
Yeah, if you go to a Scouts practice, I wouldn't consider, especially the offensive coaches, they're not really yellers.
No.
And that's typically offensive coaches. They're a little more cerebral personalities. Usually it's the defensive guys
for sure
that are a little bit louder. You can certainly hear Coach Bag. You can certainly hear Coach Soprich, right? It's got one of the loudest voices there is. But yeah, I think the kind of self-policing, and you sort of follow the lead of the coaching staff and kind of fill in some of those gaps.
Exactly.
So I'm going to transition here and ask you about a book on leadership.
Sure.
It's a book about many different things.
Yeah.
But one that I know that you read last winter and spring after you had your injury. And this is David Goggins, a book called Can't Hurt Me. And David's basically, it's a book, and maybe people watching this audience have heard of it. It's kind of it's basically a memoir. It's a book of his life, but it's sort of it's sort of wrapped into kind of a philosophy about self-mastery.
For sure.
Right. He's somebody who had a very, I guess, troubling childhood, right, Jack, is fair to say,
he had a pretty abusive childhood. His father wasn't the best father, and he grew up in not a tough area, but he grew up living a tough life.
Yeah, certainly kind of a broken environment. I think there's a quote in the book here where he says, and this goes back to kind of these core lessons that come out of each chapters of the book. And I wrote this down here, where you can't always control what happened to you, but you can control whether it continues to define you.
Yeah.
And there's a quote that says, this is from Goggins saying, you are in danger of living a life so comfortable and soft
Yeah.
that you will die without ever realizing your true potential. I'm not sure I would put it that harshly, right? For people, but that's one of the things I like about the Goggins book is sometimes
Yeah.
he can talk to you with kind of a blunt instrument, right?
For sure.
And he's not necessarily teaching you how to become tougher physically. He's teaching you how to kind of, it's almost like stop negotiating with yourself, right?
Yeah.
Make a decision. You've got a lot of capacity in life. Go for it. What did you get most out of that book?
Yeah. So you actually sent me this book after I got hurt. I think I started reading it about a month after I hurt my ankle. I think the biggest thing I took away from it, especially in the mindset I was at the time, was the mental toughness and how Goggins approached his mental side of himself. So something I always remember is the 40% rule he talks about.
Mm-hmm.
So he believes that your mind stops your body at about 40% of its capacity, and then overcoming that roadblock with your mental side is how you unlock the 60% of your potential. So I think he also talked about how mental toughness is only developed by encountering pain and discomfort. So I even think about that when practice gets hard. You gotta experience that discomfort to build toughness, and that's a big part of how I got through my injury. Thinking about that during physical therapy, you gotta be uncomfortable to make a change.
Yeah, I think the 40% rule is probably certainly one of the more famous concepts, I think, in his book, which has been adapted, I think, by many sports organizations, probably even corporations, I think, because he's become a pretty well sought after, public speaker. And I think what he's kind of saying is, hey, when your mind kind of tells you that you're finished, you've really only reached a fraction, right, of that capacity. But also to be conscious of that, right? To be present when that happens, where say, I can't do this anymore. Well, there's probably a lot of substantial capacity that's actually remaining beyond that.
Yeah, for sure.
From that point of it, and that the mind can often quit before the body can kind of reach its actual limit. So then he has the kind of cookie jar, right? Sort of where you sort of write things down, and so there's a lot of stuff in that book I think can be relatable. And are some of those things? Are you now that you have an opportunity to be sort of an official captain? That you can apply, you think, now in this role to sort of lead your guys on this team this year?
Yeah, I think something like the 40% rule has been in my mind throughout this. Just reminding the guys, like, when practice gets tough, scouts football and our culture is kind of about, digging deep and getting gritty. And so, like, just to keep pushing, and that, like, this is basically a job we have to finish, and that scouts football is about getting things done.
Yeah, and I think also, man, one aspect to it too was this idea of that you always think about physical calluses.
Yeah, callousing your brain.
You're a football player, right? So throughout the course of the year, calluses are going to develop, right? You're going to be beat up a little bit. You're never going to feel great, right? Maybe you feel good now, but at some point you're not going to feel great. So, and so if you expose yourself to those difficult experiences, guess what? Then you recover. Then you do it again, right? Discomfort, adaptation, right? Greater capacity, more discomfort, right? And then more capacity from there, right? So
it's all builds.
Yeah, this whole build. So again, nobody needs to run ultra marathons, right?
Yeah, I don't know if I could do one of those 100-milers.
To feel that way, but no, I've run 5K in my life, Jack. I'm good. I'm good on terms of competitive running. So, but no, I'm happy that it's something that you've kind of taken to and something you can apply to your guys, this year. So last couple minutes here with Jack. I want to ask you a little bit about what's happening in kind of college sports today, and you about to become a college athlete here. In some respects, I have a conversation with a lot of people all the time. It's like it's a great time to be a college athlete.
Yeah,
because of all the opportunity, all the mobility to be a college athlete.
Yeah.
But in some respects, it just trying to it's all the constant lawsuits and court
Mm-hmm.
cases and like coaches leaving, players leaving. What are your thoughts on kind of the game now and the kind of professionalization of kind of college sports, and where do you see the opportunity there?
Yeah, as you said, the mobility. I was talking to Charlie Markey. I keep pretty constant contact with him,
Yeah.
but one of his linebackers just transferred to Wisconsin. So that's a Division III team to a Power Four prominent Division I team. So the mobility is definitely there, and I think it's great for college athletes. I think it can make it a little tougher for high school kids to get opportunities with kids just transferring around. And now you have just recently a guy who went pro, did 2 training camps, and is now coming back to college football. So there's a lot of trial and error, I feel like, and freedom for college guys. But I think it's kind of a double-edged sword there, but also I think it's very much more professional. Guys are going through lawsuits, getting lawyers, having agents. So it's definitely become more advanced and mature from a business side of college football.
Yeah, I think that's well said about the business part of it. I think there's certainly opportunities for you to gain income to be an actual athlete, right? The idea of
Yeah,
amateurism is sort of dead, although I still think like from a
yeah,
fan perspective, as somebody who went to Michigan State, went to a big school,
yeah,
you have to separate that. Like when you're a fan, I think there's a distinction between rooting for your team and then not necessarily letting the business side kind of bleed into that, right? So
yeah,
I always like the idea of growing up with athletes. Again, one of the
yeah,
great things about covering high school sports, and I'm obviously a a youth coach too, and to be
yeah,
able to see you guys grow up, right? That's fun
yeah,
to see you guys, the seventh, eighth graders, develop, go to the games on Fridays, see you guys get better. I hope that that's not lost in college sports, because every
yeah,
year you're looking at the roster going like, God, there's like 50 new guys here. I don't know who the heck these guys are, right? And then
yeah.
you lose some of that relationship with the university, I think, from a fan perspective. But
Hmm.
either way, man, it's still, Saturday afternoons or Saturday nights. People still love going to games and going to
Sure.
tailgates and rooting for their team, right? So I think it's
Yeah,
not going to be any different.
I still love watching college football, and I don't think it'll ever be changed by the NIL or business side.
I think from an athlete, for you, I think it's awesome. I think it's a great
Yeah.
opportunity. I think it's, and even when you decide to go, whether it's Denison or it's a Patriot League or an Ivy League school, I know you're
Hmm.
going to want to commit there for 4 years, but the reality is that you have opportunities to also
Yeah,
to get
for
promoted,
sure.
right?
Yeah, I don't have to be where I want to end up right away, which is very possible with the modern state of college football.
Yeah, and that would be certainly exciting for me. But it starts with your senior year, right?
Yep, that's
So
right. That's all
having
I'm
a great
focused on.
practice tonight, having a great practice on Wednesday, and then having a great game on Friday, and
Yep, of
catching balls, get some stock blocks out there. Let's get inside outside zone
course.
going, right?
Yep, that's right. Couple cracks.
Yeah, let's get Daisy going a little bit. All right, let's get Daisy going.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Absolutely. Okay, good stuff, Jack. Hey, appreciate you
Yep.
coming on, man. And
Thank you. Thanks for
we'll,
having me.
yep, I'll see you real soon. Okay,
All
thanks.
right, see you, coach.